This computer. Here we go. Okay, we are recording. So welcome everybody, and welcome to not just Happy Pride, not just Happy Indigenous Day, but the 4-year anniversary of Indigenous Reads.
Yay!
Exciting day! Woohoo! Woohoo! Okay, you know what? We always try to start off in a good way, so let's do a smudge. Even though we have to do it via Zoom, because I think today is also the first day they, apparently it's not a state of emergency in Alberta any longer for COVID-19. According to our conservative government anyway.
Yeah.
All right, and with that, I'm gonna smudge off my, any smart alecky words here. We'll bring in our ancestors. I bring in my ancestors who have got me to this place right here, right now. I acknowledge the next generation that are waiting to come up, and then I acknowledge this generation. So not just you and me, but all the two-legged, all the four-legged, all of those that fly, all of those that swim, all the creepy crawlies, and everything I may have accidentally missed. So, and then those in between, those are kind of the four realms I try to acknowledge every time. So I have my smudge here, and I would be happy to share my smudge with all of you. So.
Oh, thank you.
I wish you could
virtually. Virtually.
Oh, what a good smudge.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll just let that burn, and I guess we'll start with our community guidelines of past, participate, and confidentiality. I mean, this is recorded, so in order to create a safe space, at any point in time, if you want to share something and ask for me to turn off the record, I will. We did that last time and it seemed to work pretty good, but I did take off our last book club because one of the members approached me afterwards and said that she said something she felt uncomfortable with, and as unlikely as it is for folks to watch this, you know, it was that bigger picture that we want to create that safe space. We want to create an atmosphere that you feel comfortable, that even afterwards, if you kind of regret saying something, we can either edit it or just take it offline. So with that, I say thank you. Thank you all for being here today. So this book club 4 years ago originally had John Riley come and talk about his books of bad medicine and his experience as a judge here in Alberta. He waived his $5,000 speaking fee so that we could host him, and I was really honored to that be the launch of our book club. So, and since then, you know, a lot has changed in the last couple of months, and I don't know what to expect over the next couple of months because you know, I'm very much science focused, and I know we don't have a vaccine for this virus, and just because things are opening up doesn't mean necessarily everybody would be comfortable with meeting in person, and I respect that. So I wanted to let you know too that Kat sent in her regrets because yeah, she has a birthday party, so yeah, a really great reason to send in her regrets.
Is it her birthday?
No, I got the impression it was either a nephew or a stepson, something like that. So a young man in her life who is very dear to her. And I said, I will totally understand. She's like, oh, I might be late. I'm like, I don't know if you know, don't worry about not coming. So,
right.
Yeah, so I want to start with a land acknowledgement. I always acknowledge that we're on Blackfoot Confederacy land. So the US-Canadian border split up the Confederacy, and the Blackfeet are south of the border. North of the border are the Kainai, Piikani, and Siksika. And then in 1877, Treaty 7 was signed with the signatories of the Stoney Nakoda, Wesley, Chiniki, Bearspaw Nations, and then the Dene from Tsuut'ina, along with our Blackfoot Confederacy here. So always acknowledge I'm a Mohkinstsis here, and in my language it's Clincho Tine Indahe, which means many horse town. And yeah, so it is Pride, but we always try to be as LGBTQ2 plus inclusive as we can. So if somebody identifies with they and them pronouns, we definitely want to make sure we get the right pronouns and be inclusive. And just by chance, I happen to have in my background my Free Hugs rainbow sign, so it's super funny. Respect feelings, no swearing, Michelle, or abusive language, because I swear all the time. I'm trying really hard not to. No cross talking, stay off your phone, stay on topic. Yeah, so that's pretty much our rules. Normally we let Indigenous people speak first if there's a big group of us, but it doesn't look like there's a big group of us tonight, and I don't blame anybody because it's sure a nice day out. And I think I heard something like rain for the rest of the week too. So, and I live in the Northeast, but like a block north of me is where all of those hail storms happen. So I feel so awful for my neighbors right now because COVID wasn't enough. We have to have a major. I actually thought maybe a tornado touchdown because of the amount of damage that happened in the hail and the size of the hail and the clouds. Like it just, I thought maybe a tornado came, and I was just waiting for the confirmation from one of those meteorological, or I don't know, national weather stations to kind of tell us about that. So I think that's all of our guidelines that we really have. So I use she and her pronouns. And how about we do a round just to kind of check in with everybody. And yeah, I'm super excited for Vanessa to kind of tell everybody what happened. So maybe we'll go with Vanessa first.
Hi everyone, I'm Vanessa. My pronouns are she, her. I live in Cochrane. I am a teacher. And yeah, it was a pretty exciting day yesterday. So we had like 5 days to organize the first ever anti-racism protest / BLM thing happening, well, at least since I'm here. And it was pretty exciting to be there and building community, and we had a pretty good turnout. What do you think, Michelle? How many people do you think were there?
I don't know. There must have been about 100 people, and it was awesome. I actually cried a lot. I felt really inspired. Vanessa's daughter made me want to cry, so that made me happy that I'm sure you all remember her coming to our book club. And when she did, we validated her and validated her story. She told it publicly, and I took a video of it. And I posted it.
And I didn't. Oh.
But now you have it. I can send it to you directly if you can't download it from Facebook.
Yes. Yeah. She. I asked her if she wanted to tell her story. She said yes immediately. I feel that it's that it was empowering to be at the book club and to be the first time that she ever told her story publicly, and also being validated by all of you, especially you, Michelle. Especially your words around Turtle Island and her belonging in the world. I think that meant the world to her, and that was definitely an aspect of what, emboldened her to speak out. And those were her words. I helped with commas and whatever, but yeah, I was very proud of her, and I was so honored to have Indigenous speakers. We had an opening prayer, land acknowledgement. It was just great. We had Black speakers. It was great. It was a very good experience, and I think it's gonna be a day that many people in this town will remember. Some of them will be happy memories for many of us. For some others, it wasn't a happy day. They were pretty angry, giving us fingers, rural Alberta. It is what it is, but overall it was an amazing day. And
I can't believe you shut down a street. She shut down a street.
Wow.
Yeah, we shut down the street. Yeah.
Which one? Which street?
So, and just a quick share. So when I was at the rally, I said, there are times when I want to move and I want to go somewhere else. There was actually down my street, like 100 yards from my house, one of my neighbors had like a People's Party sign, which is openly anti-Black, anti-Indigenous, anti-immigrant. And we felt like moving from Cochrane, like going somewhere else, but we didn't. And it was around the work that some organizations are doing, anti-racism work that it's happening in Alberta. And my neighbor was at the protest. I didn't know. And he came today to apologize. He and his whole family, he and his wife and the kids, they knocked on my door and they were extremely embarrassed, and they were so, I felt it was very sincere. Yeah, they came. It was like an hour ago that they came and they apologized, and they asked to speak to my daughter to apologize as well, because I mentioned that my daughter had played there. Like, she used to have play dates in that house, and then it was not a safe space anymore after that display of hate. And I guess, I don't know, they just said that they didn't know what the party represented. So it's already like one family that like learned what that party represents. So it's a win.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Amazing.
So, yeah, crazy.
That is an amazing story. That story has to go viral, man. That's amazing.
Yeah, they came, and I was, it was like I felt lots of hope. Like, I felt that many people who were there learned so much, and some of the messages were very tough and were very, like, you know, right on. Like, I was like many people left as the event transcurred. Like, many people had to leave because messages were strong. Like, we didn't hold up to anything. I don't know, Michelle, what do you think?
No, it was really positive. Like, I thought it was really strong messages, like and it's so interesting because today, like, we're here to talk about Hope Matters from Lee Maracle, and like, I felt hopeful leaving your rally. I felt hopeful, like, and that now this story that you just told, like, that is such a great story. I can't even encapsulate how amazing that is. So I don't know. Hope is literally the theme that I came away from your rally from, but also now, of course, today we want to talk about that as well. But it's that bigger picture that I can't believe they didn't know what the People's Party stood for, but whatever. At least they were so kind and sincere. You know, that makes me happy.
And I also feel like even if they didn't know, I mean, even if it's not sincere, I'm thinking now they know, like, we're not alone. You know what I mean? Like, now they're like, oh, damn it, I have to apologize because, like, there's like 150 people here who are, you know, advocating for the same thing, and we might be in the wrong at this time. So I don't know. I was happy for my daughter because I told her, like, that's what you get when you speak up. Like, that was you were brave, and this is the result, and so you should be very proud. And yeah, that was my takeaway.
That's awesome. And you know, another thing that I loved about your rally was that while it was centered on Black voices, like, you gave space to the immigrant Alberta community, and we talked about slavery through the Temporary Foreign Workers Program. And I thought it was such a great rally that it brought all the speakers, and Daryl Kootenay, he was one of the main speakers. And you know, being in the Liberal Party and talking to different activists, unfortunately, the UN isn't what we'd love it to be, right? Like, it really narrows down who can talk from Canada, how long you have at the mic, or even narrow down your questions. And he so validated that. But he also validated the idea that community is where all the change happens. And clearly that happened for your neighbor to feel shamed enough to come over to you and apologize to you. So, like, that is such a great win.
Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, Crystal, do you wanna go next?
Sure. So Crystal, she, her, they, them pronouns are good for me. Yeah, so I actually saw the event that you posted the video. So I watched some of the speeches, and yeah, it was really moving to see you with your daughter standing next to her, like, supporting her to share her voice. And I think it just ties so beautifully to this book too, right? Because you have a mother with her daughters, and like repeatedly throughout the poems, they're talking about their voice and having a voice. And letting your voice out to be heard and validated. So I just think like this all just fits together like almost like perfectly. Yeah.
Amazing.
And the other speech that I really thought was so good was the Filipino lady talking about the work, that the labor and the work, and you know, really just made it so clear, like how could you take advantage of people who are caring for you like out of their heart, right? I just felt like it was such an excellent speech. Yeah, so really great job doing all that to put something on like that. It's amazing, and you're amazing, honestly. Yeah.
Way to go, Vanessa. That's so awesome.
Yeah.
Crystal, did you want to talk at all about how, because I mean, so much has happened in a month, whole lot, but especially with the Black Lives Matter issue, how that might be affecting you as well?
Yeah, it's a daily thing. I was able to go to the vigil downtown, and so that was really great to see, like so many people out and supporting, and really they might have been there, but you know, those disturbers that come around all the time were not able to make any dent in that at all. And I thought that's so powerful, because you know that they're cowards and they only come out if there's small numbers. They'll come out and try to bully people, but once they saw like there's way too many people, they don't show their face really, right? So and then every day is just on social media, I'm just like determined that my white friends and family are going to hear it. And I don't care now if they think I'm too negative or whatever. I'm just like, nope. You think this Black Lives Matter was over last week? Guess what? It's not over. It's not over, and it's not going to be over, and you're not going to get to relax. So either I'll alienate everyone and they won't like watch my stuff, or like I have people who are kind of like, yes, this makes sense, and you know, like defund the police and all of these things, right? Like let's, you know what, even if you don't agree with me, I'm going to put that idea out there and you're going to see it, because we need change. Like the statues being knocked in the water, I'm like, I love to see this, makes me so happy. Do you know how long it took for a bridge to be renamed in Calgary? One lousy bridge. So like people don't know that. Well, let me share a little bit. Let me share Michelle's posts. Let me share. And so I guess that's really what I've just been, you know, I used to be more like trying to choose and be like, well, let's put something like happy thing and then do like a serious thing. But now I'm like, no, and the government, whatever I can do, right? I wish I could have gone to Cochrane that day. I really wish I would have been there. Like, I want to be part of this movement. Like, to me, it's so meaningful. And if there's anything I could do in life, like, and like die happy that I did something, it would be this, like, honestly. So that's my little spiel.
Amazing. That's exactly what I want to hear. That's awesome. Awesome. I guess, Rosemary, do you want to go next? Just because you're unmuted, so.
I'm muted or unmuted?
You're unmuted and Sarah's still muted, so.
Okay. Sure, I'm Rosemary. I use she and her pronouns. It's been, I think, a time for deep reflection again of, you know, how many times do people have to die before people wake up, if they're even awake? And I have so much respect for the work that has obviously gone on. Like, we haven't heard a lot from Black Lives Matter, but they've been working because their demands are so clear and well thought through, and people are responding. And I just have so much respect for that kind of organizing that just happens, you know, on an ongoing basis within a community, that when a crisis comes, people can respond and be very clear and mobilize people in the way that they have. Because of age and health conditions, no, I have not participated in the rallies, so that's felt very frustrating. On the other hand, within We're Together Ending Poverty, we've put together a statement on racism and poverty, making all of those links and talking about the racialization of poverty. Because I think we need to just keep working. And I know, like Nellie, who spoke at your rally from Migrante, she was saying to Lisa that she felt we weren't saying enough about race and class, you know? So I think that's a big issue before us. So, so I guess I don't know about Toronto. I don't even know here for Calgary. Like, I don't know if the same kind of work that's been going on in the States has been going on here in Canada, and especially in Calgary and Alberta. Does anybody here know?
Well, I can tell you, like, what's basically been happening is we have a whole bunch of brand new activists popping up. But here locally, like, we had a debrief meeting the other day, and I was only there for the first hour, but it was a lot more conversation about putting together, you know, like apps for Black businesses, and you know, encouraging. There was one man who really wanted to encourage a Black woman to run municipally because he feels that's where the change can happen. So there was a lot of just kind of getting to know each other for the first time kind of meeting. And it was really kind of them for them to include a few of us Indigenous folks to be at that table. And yeah, so like there's absolutely stuff happening. There was a white woman from Red Deer, and she put together the Innisfail one. And I don't know, well, I think this is happening everywhere, where a lot of, you know, new people are putting together protests for the first time and learning, you know, oh my God, I got, you know, like a death threat from this. And so like people like myself, like I put out a statement today just saying, you know, hey folks, yeah, you're going to get this. This is what you do, and go through it. And it's been shared a few times. I haven't checked on it like most of the day. We had a voices meeting. The Indigenous committee that is part of the Calgary Police Service, we met this morning at 10, had a meeting with Mark about possibilities of next step. And there was more than just Mark Neufeld, the chief, in the room. And right away they wanted to meet with Voices and the Cultural Mosaic Foundation. And so anyway, that's happening. And then on top of that, so when Voices formed 4 years ago, and we were talking about Black Lives Matter then, and racism in the LGBTQ2+ community, you know, we had our set of like what we expect, and no uniforms in Pride was the big one, right? Like that was it. And that really upset City Council and everybody. But there's been a lot of change in the last 4 years. Nothing thanks to, you know, any of those institutions, but out of Voices has come Pink Flamingo, which is a pure Black queer organization that's run by a Black woman, and I think she identifies as lesbian. I want to say so. Really nice woman, Allison. Anyway, her and Evan Woolley, and then she drafted today an anti-racism motion, and there's funding attached. So yeah, that was what was happening earlier this afternoon, but I was like, I can't watch this, so I don't know. But that was kind of the big thing that we were watching today at City Council, to see if there would be, if that passed and where that money would be allocated. And then I think tomorrow at 10, I have the meeting with the cops again about next steps with mainly the predominantly Black community. I think Action Dignity is going to be there as well. So there's meetings happening, but I mean, I'm not going to lie, as somebody who's been talking about this forever, I'm finding this is really gaslighting. You know, it's been 4 years. Voices has had our demands out there. You know, Rachel Notley 2 years ago never did apologize to Evans for what she did, and that's been out there for over 2 years. So you know, it's interesting how many people suddenly want to pick my brain or whichever, right? But they never want to pay you to talk. That's for sure. But Rosemary, I just want to ask you this because you literally have been doing anti-racism work for decades. So what does this feel like from your point of view?
Like I say, I think okay. What I feel is that it's the movement itself which gives me hope, the work that they've done, how they've positioned themselves. But I also feel now, okay, institutions are wonderful at looking like they're going to change things, and then they don't. Doesn't matter which institution it is. And I was listening to a Black lawyer on the radio talk about changes within the police, and she distinguished between changes in policy and changes in the culture. And she felt that culture trumped policy every time. And so when I think what she was speaking about when she talked about culture is, if you think of the police, it's historically been predominantly a white male bastion. And when we talk about white, we're talking about whiteness and white supremacy, and how white supremacist assumptions underlay so much of what we do, right, in those institutions. And so can the institutions have deep-rooted change when individuals within the institution don't want to look at themselves as racist without getting all tied up in guilt and embarrassment, but just acknowledge how we've been raised as white people in this society and how unthinkingly, right, we contribute. And so how we really do need to open up our ears and our hearts and listen and contribute in a meaningful way. But what experience has shown me is there's so much resistance to that inward work. So so the question for me has been, how does this move forward, and how can we advance that part of the work so that in fact the institutions do change and don't just have the appearance of change.
Yeah, they talk nice, hey?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but it's true. And I think that's a big concern for me too. Like, I find it very interesting that now everybody suddenly wants to pick their brain or be willing to, you know, admit it. The RCMP had to backpedal on that, hey? Yeah, so Senator Lillian Dick, like, she called them out and said, okay, then you need to resign. Like, we can't do this anymore. And my big message tomorrow with the police will be like, I want the plan. Like, the TRC's been out for 5 years. Where's the justice calls to action? It's been a year since the inquiry came out. Where's your 231 calls to justice? Like, I'm gonna say this needs to get implemented. Like, this isn't something that they need to do community consultation on. I literally can give them a list of like dead Indigenous women that they've personally killed. You need that list? I got it. That's not a problem. And their families are hurting, and we need, you know, solved cases, and we need accountability. Like, you shouldn't be killing an Indigenous woman in the streets of Calgary. Right? And now it's happening nationally. And I hated this one thing I shared. It was something like more people have died from police shootings, and more Indigenous people have died of police shootings in this month than of COVID in New Brunswick or something. And it was it was so like it just makes you want to cry. That kind of kick in the stomach. So
yeah, and that in light of everything that's been happening with Black Lives Matters, that the killings continue of Black people, of Indigenous people, or beatings, or like, yeah.
So I guess you've seen Chief Adam Allen's.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I hate that people, like, it sucks because I don't want people to see that. At first I was just sharing like the article without the picture, and I just because it kills me seeing that. It just, there's a piece of me inside of me. This is one of our strongest leaders, and you just beat the crap out of him because you knew who he was. And yeah, and there's no accountability. And this is, you know, they're already saying, no, there was no racism involved in the 2 Métis that were executed up north. Like, how can you even say that? So yeah, it's a really dark time right now. And it's so funny because I have been very vocal about defunding the police. And I said that to Mark today. I said, you know, because he said something publicly that, you know, do we really need to be going to a suicide? We're just the only ones who respond. And I thought, well, that's really progressive of you to say that. But and they were talking about systemic change in the sense that, you know, when you call 911, it asks you if you want to, if you need fire, police, or ambulance. And they were talking about maybe adding mental health as, you know, one of those 911 options. So, you know, I don't know if they'll do anything systemically. And even if they do, like, and we've had many discussions through this book club about how problematic nurses, doctors, or social workers can be anyway. So I don't know, we'll see. But yeah, so maybe we'll ask Sarah. Sarah, would you like to unmute yourself and chime in about, you know, how you're doing, and if, assuming that you want to use she and her pronouns, but any other points that you want to bring in?
Yeah, thank you so much. She and her is fine. I was actually thinking about switching it to they and them because it felt more inclusive and less kind of boxy, but then my daughter told me that was stupid. So anyway, she and her, and just a little introduction because I'm new to the group. I moved to Canada in 2012. At that time, I was a nice environmentalist activist and had been all my life, and never thought too much, I'm sorry to say, about race. And I knew almost nothing about Indigenous lives. In that year, I read an article in the New Yorker about Khalif Browder, and it just broke me. And I began this journey that that has brought me here tonight. So I began to read everything that I could about Black, basically slavery or oppression that is continuing today. And then I moved here, and I quickly began to learn that also Indigenous people live under horrible oppression. And I'm embarrassed that I didn't already know that, and I didn't. You know, the sign you posted, Michelle, really, really resonated with me. Just, I'm sorry I'm late. I had a lot to learn, and I don't know why it took me so long to wake up. In 2012, when I read that article about Khalif Browder, I think I was already like 41 years old or something like that. And all I can say is I'm sorry I'm late. But since I moved to Calgary, I've been doing a lot of environmental activism, and that's brought me into contact with Idle No More, and it's been an amazing learning journey. And then seeing the Black Lives Matter come alive up here this past week has felt like coming full circle. And I helped organize the one on Wednesday, the march, and it felt amazing to be just even, you know, just behind the scenes. I didn't do any of the brain work or any of the cleverness, but I just basically took tasks and did running and went and picked up things and dropped things off. But it felt amazing to have that coming alive here, at least to be widely perceived. It probably already has been alive, but to see 4,000 people out in the street felt amazing and hopeful. I struggle a lot with despair when I learn about all the things that have happened all these hundreds of years. It really fills me with despair. And so it was this past week, couple weeks, month has felt a little less despair filled. And I'm hopeful that this movement feels like different, that it's going to go somewhere. But like many of you have said, Rosemary and Michelle and others, I have also seen that cycle of institutional kind of posturing and gaslighting that leads nowhere. So I hope we're not going to do that again. I hope this is legit.
Yeah, me too.
And anyway, it's hard learning. It's nothing glamorous, and it's making me in a position where for once in my life, I'm feeling a lot more quiet and less eager to talk and more eager to learn and listen. So if I don't say much tonight, it's not because I'm not totally tuned in and enriching, but I feel like I have a lot to still learn, and I'm trying to learn it.
Sarah, I think you're being really humble. And I think that it's really important that you kind of know who you're talking to here. And we like I know you haven't met Rosemary directly, but Rosemary literally has been doing anti-racism work in the city for decades. And she worked really hard at getting the Calgary Board of Education to understand anti-racism policies. So she literally could spend an hour talking about that one thing right now.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Oh, really great.
But again, Michelle, not just me. There's a whole community of people doing that work.
Absolutely. But you're here and they're not.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And Sarah, did you want to talk about, is it Extinction Rebellion that you're with?
That's who I'm with, yes. So we, you probably are familiar with Extinction Rebellion. Maybe that's the group that kind of takes the tack of government has basically completely failed. And although we've all been doing the petitions and the marches and the rallies for decades, we are have made literally zero progress on climate change. And so it's time to be invoking some of the nonviolent disruptive tactics and to stop depending on the government to make the change. So we've done some things in Calgary, and it's obviously been the pandemic has been a bit muffling for us, just like everybody else, but we also then now are eager to defer to this movement that's happening right now, and not defer, I shouldn't even say, but support it from underneath and behind, because there is no climate change action. There's no climate without climate justice. So now I understand that through all the learning I've done these last 8 or 10 years, where I didn't understand that, 10 years ago, I thought it was all just about carbon emissions. Now I understand that the carbon emissions don't hardly matter at all, but if we can bring climate justice to the world, then we'll be in a good shape. So, but yeah, that's what I do. I've been in the founding core of the Calgary Extinction Rebellion chapter, and we're small, but we exist.
And you show up.
Hatred.
You show up to Idle No More events, so that's good.
Yeah, it's been like an incredible honor to work with the organizers from Idle No More, and that feels like really appropriate for Extinction Rebellion to be paired with them and supporting them and having their support too, because again, their Indigenous people have been holding the line on the climate and biodiversity and everything, and not only not getting credit for it, but repeatedly getting slaughtered and their land taken and imprisoned and abused in every possible way. So it feels very appropriate to follow the lead of Idle No More in our local work.
It's amazing. I'm so glad you're here. And Crystal and I, we originally met at Support Our Students, which is like an educational grassroots, what's the best way to say it? Maybe a calling out group where they just tell at this point, the Alberta government that does education cuts and I can't even get started down that road. But anyway, that group
I'm with
is where,
you.
yeah, right. That's where I originally met Crystal. And
Okay.
Vanessa, we've been so grateful. You travel all the way from Cochrane to come out here. And I was so honored to do, to see your rally and to be a part of that one and just witness it and just get to be in that crowd. Like such good, strong women speaking about everything, and I just was blown away. And especially the young Black girl that talked about her beautiful skin. Oh, she just nailed that whole, like, she encapsulated how proud she was, and I was so happy to hear that, because on the flip side, Adora spoke and she talked about how she literally went to school every single day and told she was ugly. Like every single day being told that. And that is its own story. Like that is it. That, like, when we talk about racism in the education system, there had to be at some point, one teacher somewhere that heard the kids calling her ugly. Like, how does that even happen, right? How many times did somebody call me a dirty little squaw at school and the teacher said nothing? You know, like, that's the anti-racism teaching that we need to be doing at school without question. And it's just so okay. And my daughter, she hears the gay slurs in the hallways, and when she told the CBC the next day, her teacher sat her down and told her not to really speak about those things, and she felt so awful that she didn't go to school the next day. And we're seriously considering not putting her back, because since COVID has happened, all of her stress is gone. All of that stress of teachers' disapproval. So I should share a quick story though. We got our COVID-19 negative test that we got swabbed on Friday. I think we have to make another appointment just to kind of prove that I'm still negative. But very interesting. They were very, strong to tell us that they will not call us unless it's positive. So when the Alberta healthcare nurse called us, we thought, what? But they were just very curious why Samantha would have needed to be tested at all. And I thought, how interesting that the only interactions as me as a Native mom has ever had with Alberta Health Services is for them just to double check on the well-being of my daughter. So I, told them that we were at some of the rallies, and that she was quick to go, oh, okay. But why was she red flagged to even contact us? Not very impressed with AHS. I got this awful review. You guys are going to find this funny. I know you will find it funny because you've been doing anti-racism work, but I got this really awful review on my native Calgarian, so I shared it. And the person who did it immediately realized she made a mistake, so took it down. But I took a screenshot and I reshared it just to show everybody, because it's just filled with racism. Rosemary, you would just be like, oh my freaking God. But so I reshared it, and a lot of my followers, they did a follow-up. It turns out she's a freaking paramedic out in Cochrane.
Yeah.
So we got her email, and we got her boss's email, and I sent a bunch of, because you're not even going to believe the rest of the story. So she sends me like all these private messages telling me she's a friend of hers and she committed suicide, and it was open. Her phone was open to my page. So obviously she was blaming this person committing suicide on me and my page. And so I woke up to this, right? So I started to engage with her a little bit, and I told her she was harassing me, and I'm like, I know it's you, don't harass me. And so I took a whole bunch of screenshots and I sent them to the police, because obviously she's fucking, excuse my language, she is disturbed. Her white fragility came out so strong, and she just really started harassing me, actually. So and I showed everybody, I'm like, so this is what's happening in my life. And so a lot of people found out who she was, and so I sent the report to the police. And she's a paramedic, they're police. I don't know what will happen with that, but she'll be on my long list of people who just love me at the Calgary Police. So so that happened. I'm just trying to think if there were some other silly things that happened. Sarah, I see you unmuted. You can chime in here if you'd like.
I was just going to say, you just tell it like it is, Michelle, so strong that you're definitely a person who's likely to trigger. If there's any white fragility present, you will trigger it. No question about it.
Right? That Native woman. But I'll be honest with you, like, because we always talk about how we all have something to learn. And I'm absolutely no exception, right? So I've been walking down this red road and obviously make mistakes as I go. And anyway, one of the things that has really kind of been sitting with the last couple of days is David Chappelle put out 15-minute routine. and it's pretty freaking powerful, talking about George Floyd and everything that's happening. Like, I would even call it civil war that's happening right now in the States, right?
Yes, I would too.
Yeah, because and I don't know if you all know this, and this is really hard to talk about, but there's actually been a few lynchings.
Yes, I just read about those this morning, and I literally almost like puked.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe that people aren't like screaming. Like, this is when the despair hits, is when I like, wait a minute, what?
Yeah.
This actually happened? This is not just, you know, I saw it on CNN. This is not just you know, urban legend. And it happened like this week.
Yeah.
And they called it suicide.
I know.
Like, come on.
Right.
The symbolism and the literally, and the fact that like people aren't all talking about it all across the USA, that's when I start feeling like, whoa, there's like 2 different realities here, or 3 or 4 or something.
Right.
I mean, and people are talking about, you know, did Donald Trump walk funny down this ramp or not? And it's like, who cares?
Yeah.
Let's be out in the streets. Let's be burning shit down. Okay, sorry.
No, I'm right there with you, Sarah. My brother, one of my brothers, so I have 2 brothers, one who's the same mom and dad, and one who's a different mom. So he's not Native, he's white. You know, he sent me a quick text, and we were chatting a bit about this. And, you know, like, I just tried to remind him that you have to remember, like, these are lives being taken. I mean, we can rip down all these wonderful statues, but I mean, we're not killing people. So there's that, right? And like, my understanding, and I haven't looked into it because it's really heartbreaking, but the one girl was literally one of the speakers, and then she's so-called suicided, like, within 24 hours. That's not right. Yeah. That's such a awful example of lynching, and you know, rightfully so. Adora is very concerned about her safety locally, because you've seen the rebel media be the morons they are. You know, so we do have to protect her. Like, she called us, she told us we should. Unfortunately, my phone died in the middle of her speech, but she made it very clear we need to be protecting all Black people, right? And I couldn't agree more. Anyway, I was saying that Dave Chappelle put out his like 15-minute thing that you can find it on YouTube, and like, it's the N-word when about anybody. But you know, like I said to other people, 10 years ago I would have said he was racist, but I've done enough anti-racism work that I'm like, I just hear him without judgment now. And you know, 10 years ago, him using the bitch word really would have offended me and turned me off his message. But today, understanding the umbrella of oppression and understanding what he's saying without judgment, like, I didn't find it, what he said, at all offensive, but more so, like, you know, you want to cry with him. And so, like, even for me, you know, I talk about being straight and cis, and having a filter because of that, you know, trying to see the gay world more. But it's been pretty clear to me, some of the anti-racism work I've done in the last 10 years has changed me, that I don't like, I see I was anti-Black a lot more than I thought I was, you know. And I don't want to be that. So Sarah, I think the reason why I really brought this up was because, you know, you were saying that you're in your 40s. Well, I'm 43, and I was really blind to a lot of this as well, especially anti-Black immigration issues. Like, if it wasn't for it was probably Jason Kenney, actually, and what he started doing federally that really got me pissed off to see immigrants in the light I did. I actually told my stepmom, who's originally from Austria, I told her, Mom, you better get your freaking status, or your citizenship, because I don't trust Harper. And I know she didn't really believe me, but she went and got it done. So that's good. Her whole family did. But, you know, like, really and truly, one of the last bills that Harper's government was trying to put forward would have basically taken my one brother, who's half Austrian, and sent him to Austria. If they, for whatever reason, didn't like him, he could just send him off to Austria. even though he's never been there. He doesn't know Austrian in any way, shape, or form, doesn't even know family there. But that was the type of bill that the Omar Khadr bill that Harper had put forward. So, you know, it was Jason Kenney that was the immigration minister at the time. And in the Northeast here, they were very clear. They told me that, you know, if you were from India or from Pakistan, there was like thousands of immigration papers that they just erased. And they told them, no, you just got to start over when they first became federal government. So it was really clear to me how, like, the conservatives federally, way back in like 2000, whatever, 10, how awful they were then. So the idea of him becoming our premier really upset me, right? Which is why I ran against him. But, you know, we're really seeing it during COVID-19, the results of really crappy immigration policies and the temporary foreign workers program, which I should give credit to the Liberals prior to Harper. They actually initiated that. And Harper and Kenney tweaked it. So, you know, but it's basically modern day slavery. And I was so happy to hear at the Cochrane Black Lives Matter rally, it be articulated so well from that community, because it's one thing to, and I think that's why I found the whole thing so validating, frankly, because I've been saying this, and it was so nice to hear somebody else freaking say it for once, but not at the cost of death, because that's what's happening here. And she said that so well that Albertans don't even understand the gravity. So I was really blown away by that. So Sarah, one, I don't want you to feel alone in unlearning, because I've been doing it too. And Vanessa, your march was great. Yep.
One is
Rosemary.
One is always unlearning. It doesn't end.
Yep.
It doesn't end. As far as I'm concerned, if you think it's ended, I think you're dead.
It's
You're
true.
not living, you know?
It's true. When I first started learning, I thought I kind of thought, oh my God, I see everything now. And now when I look back on myself, like Michelle, you mentioned your 10 years ago, the Dave Chappelle piece would have enraged you. Same thing. I can look back and things that now just touch me deeply, and like I just want to stand in solidarity. I know that even 5 years ago would have been very hard for me to hear and just sit with it and listen and hear it, really hear it, not just listen, but hear the words and take them into my heart. So thank you so much for saying that and for acknowledging that and giving me the space to learn. And
yeah, well, the hope is to create a safe space for all of us, right? And for us to be honest and vulnerable, because we can't change what we don't know. And another example of ableism, Vanessa, you did a great job of you and Adora bringing a person who can sign. I wonder how many rallies I have taken a video of somebody where there was an interpreter and I still didn't record them. And this was one of the first times I made a conscious effort to try to include the interpreter in my video. And I'll bet you how many times I've excluded that person, even though they were right there, and it wouldn't have taken much to just change the screen to include them, right? So again, it's that realization, like sometimes I'm being so ableist and I don't even mean to, right?
Yeah,
that was a donation that someone donated to cover for her honorarium, so that was great. That was a great addition. So when you were talking about posturing and all politicians now wanting to jump in and they're suddenly, acting and everything. So the town contacted us. They reached out to ask if the mayor could speak. I said, no, he can attend.
Good for you.
And if he wants to contribute, I would encourage him to post a video in his Facebook, because he does Facebook Lives every week. And I said he can have one of those, inviting the community and just committing to learn, committing to listen, and just like promoting a positive environment and making it safer for Black, Indigenous, and people of color. he can do that in support if he wants, but I'm gonna have to see his message first, and I'm gonna have to review what he's gonna say. Like, I went through all this series of, because you never know, like, you know what, like the Innisfail mayor doing his thing, you know, I mean, prior to the event when he said like all lives matter or whatever, and you never know what they're gonna say. Like, he's super close to the UCP MLA, and I'm like, no, like, I'm gonna have to review your message, and I'm gonna have to consult with the speakers, because this is like, no, can you imagine Adora would have just, I mean, for me, it's creating a safe space for Adora and for Daryl and for my daughter and for everyone. And I said, no, like, this is not your time to go there. And yeah, no, he didn't. He did not. I mean, he was there. He was in attendance with his family. So he was there. That's good that the community could see him there. But we didn't get like a message, like anti-racism message from him, like in his Facebook. I don't know. The thing that strikes me about everything that's happening and makes me very sad is that we were there like before we started walking, and there were like people driving by, and very few, I must say, that were upset and like, you know, insulting the gathering, etc. And I'm thinking, how can you make this something political? Like, this is not like it. I mean, it is political. It is a political movement, right? But it shouldn't be. It's like, it's human rights. Why are you making it like conservatives versus progressives? Like, why? It's not a political party. Black Lives Matter is not a political party. It's literally Black people saying our lives matter. Why is that upsetting to some? Like, it is my one frustration from all this. Like, I shouldn't be afraid of organizing this and losing my job, right? I shouldn't be like those kinds of things. And so yeah, I don't know, but yeah, the mayor was there, but he didn't speak. And I'm gonna check in with Adora, because all speakers, whenever they're speaking from their experience, and it takes a toll, and it's, you know, it's emotionally draining, right? So for all the people that are doing work out there, we need to check on them, and we need to make sure that they're doing fine and they don't need anything and they're staying safe, because they're putting themselves out there, right?
Yeah.
But yeah.
I actually made a safe plan with Jason Devine and his family. His family is really close to mine, so especially on certain days, we were definitely making contingency plans for them, because, you know, the Nazis would, you know, strike on certain days, and it was consistent, right? So we knew what days they kind of had to not be there, and yeah, but we never had to follow through on them. But just making those safety plans, I think, is really important, and you know, educating other people that unfortunately this is what you face. And I made it very clear to the poor Innisfail organizers that you never see the KKK and the RCMP together in the same room. So, you know, don't trust them. Just don't trust them. How can you trust them? Because they don't help. I mean, how many women have legitimately had restraining orders and, you know, easily trails of harassment by their murderers at the end, you know? And that just recently happened too with that shooting out east. And I just, you know, it's such a simple matter. If the police did their goddamn job and our people didn't die, you know, would we need to do this? No. If we got equal care, no. You know, like I watched the RCMP in Red Deer cry like a baby, telling my husband that his dad died. I seen that, and they were having a good bro moment together and trying really hard to be that, you know, strong, masculine man and not cry in front of each other, but they both shared that pain. How many families from Indigenous who have lost their loved ones, who have gotten like treated like dirt. In fact, worse, you know, having their house searched while mom is screaming, crying in pain, hearing about their lost loved one, and them telling her to shut up. You know, like you would never say that to a white woman who just lost her child, but you have no problem saying that to an Indigenous parent. And that's it. But you'll cry with my husband. You know, and rightfully so. Like I was glad that they had that moment, and I was glad to have witnessed it. But I wish that same moment I would see over and over and over again, so that when Indigenous people do die, that they feel supported by these damn institutions that go out of their way to hurt us, you know, and traumatize us further, because losing your loved one's not enough, right? So anyway, police brutality, racism, kind of the common theme we talk about so often. Because we're on Zoom, we have a really we have an opportunity to do a screen share, and I found a video of Lee Maracle talking about this book. So if you're comfortable with that, I'll try doing the screen share right now so that we can listen to Lee Maracle talk about this book. So if you're at all having problems, let me know. But I'm going to try doing the screen share so that.
Do we have to do anything, or do we just wait and it'll show up?
I think it's going to show up, but let me know if it doesn't. And then, yeah. Okay, so let's share this. Let me know if you can't hear it.
Come from a collective culture. My grandfather wrote poetry with me, and I told him stories. We played games called Tell It Back, Different but the Same, and we made circles, and someone would say, whoa, whoa, and then they'd jump in and say, the water from my mountain drips into the stallum. And then we keep going, whoa, whoa, and so on and so forth. And that's how we learned to write poetry. That's how I learned. So I did the same thing with my children. I saw that I was a good person when I had my first child. So instead of raising my kids differently, which I was encouraged to do, I decided to raise them like I was raised, because maybe then they would be good people. That's right, they are. They're good people. This is Columpa Bobb. She asked her father, because he went to residential school, if she could interview him. And he looks at her. He's not a Stalo. He's a Nahamuk. And the Jesuits say they're the most austere and disciplined people in the whole of North America. So this was his response. If there's no hope in it, it won't wash, babe. That's the interview. So she was stuck with writing a poem about that. Hope lives inside the artist. Instrument, brush, voice, pen, sculpture, body. Hope breathes life inside those shadowy crevices where where doubt waits to feast on our weakened and dimmed inner light. Hope gives us strength to trudge through the muck and the mire to find solid ground. Hope is the home of curiosity, imagination, intelligence, and compassion. Artists are an empathic link between hope and the outside world. Hope frees, hope relieves, hope moves us. Artists move people from inspiration to action and direct hope toward a new reality that's shared by everyone in the end. yesterday, my friend Senator Sinclair had a phone call with me, and he said, Columpa writes about home through the body. That's amazing. And then when Tania gets talking about relationships, she's so brilliant. And you're pretty good too. Asshole.
A guy.
Don't tell him I said that, Kate. It was an interesting process. We sat on my porch, which Shannon Campbell knows all about, my porch. And we worked for 5 days, starting with a poem, and then another one, and another one. Sometimes we did one verse, next verse, next verse, and there's some of those in here. But always we talked about where we're going with this. And I was always the last person to speak, because in my culture, the babies speak first. When we say respect the elders, we mean the babies, because they just came from the sky world, and old people carried them here. So the children are always wiser. And my children grew up in a household where their words were more important than anyone. I had a lawyer friend once who said, shut up, I'm talking to your mom. And I said, no, you're leaving, and I opened the door. I don't know what happened to me. So I'm older now. We're lady love home. Falling in love is a misnomer. We rise in it. Flying high, witless about the drop. I'm older now. I rise in it sooner. Fly much higher. The drop is farther. It's the landing I'm on. I'm trying to find Tania. Oh, she's not here, but I'm going to try and bring her here. Here it is. Lusty. You can see my daughters are very beautiful, right? I was telling people that was their dad. I picked him. I was in California watching TV. This Indian shows up and I think, that's the father of my children. And my sister says, you know that guy? No, but I'm going home tomorrow. He's the father of my children. Hard-working, good-looking. What else? Into an area of clear water, my eyes adjust to the brightness of yours, captivating the lure of ecstasy, just below the layer of futility, of the undoing of my lust-filled body. I faint in your gaze as it reaches starlight. The haze clears. You reach deep into my dream, searching out the lost words. Between my want for paradise and my disdain for phony scenes, I lock onto you with my eyes. No words can describe how I feel right now. I want to paint you red with permanent stains, bear your body to the typhoon. Words stick in my mouth, clamp to the edge of my tongue, afraid to leap off and crush you. Wary you will transform into the monster inside and devour me, spit me out, leaving me on dirty streets with a bad taste in my mouth. Do I have time for one more? One short little one there. Love from nothing. Thinking of you in brief moments while tying my hair back. The air breathes between us, circulating embers. Old love feelings mystify my mind. Billowing dreams of new love. My passion and synchronicity catch flame. My body set ablaze by your image. And then another one by Tania. And her daughter's here tonight with me, my granddaughter, my beautiful granddaughter. This is Tania's painting. Thank you very much.
so great to hear her. Let me just make sure I get this figured out before it starts going into another video and you're like, I can't hear you, Michelle. So this said, where I got this from, it said she was reading from her book in spring at the launch. And yeah, throughout our youth, Coppola, Bobb, and Tania Carter wrote poetry with their mother, award-winning author Lee Maracle. The three always dreamed that one day they would write a book together. This book is the result of that dream. The wide-ranging poems in Hope Matters focus on the journeys of Indigenous peoples from colonial beginnings to reconciliation. But they also document a very personal journey, that of a mother and her two daughters. Written collaboratively, Hope Matters offers a blend of three distinct and exciting voices that come together in a shared song of hope and reconciliation. So that's where I got that from, and it was at bookhugpress.ca. But I think if you Google it, it's literally the first video. And I thought, oh, this is perfect then for book club, that we can actually utilize that. So I was pretty happy to have that. Hi, Kat.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to be late.
I wasn't sure if you'd come at all, frankly, and I'm really glad you did, though.
I get to see my stepkids on Sunday as well, so they were totally understanding. And we were talking about issues of Black Lives Matter and and writing the city council to defund the police and things like that. So yeah, I thought, oh, I'll go continue it with my book club group.
Boy, did you just come in the perfect time. Like, we literally had spent all of that time talking about all of those issues. I did put out a thing about defunding the police, like a sample letter. Did everybody see it? I see some nodding. No, I'll send it to you too, Rosemary. Thank you. Yep. Sarah, if you want to unmute, can you let me know if you've seen that and if you found it helpful, or do you need me to send that to you too? Maybe she'll.
Sorry, it took me a minute to unmute. I would love that if you could send it. Yes, thank you.
Sure. Okay, we'll send that then, and then everybody has that kind of sample thing, because like I think that's a lot of the good work that you do. Well, almost everyone here does actually on making sample letters. And it was actually another group who was like abolish the prisons. They contacted me, and so I added a little bit to it, not much, but you would all know where my footprints were on that. So yeah. So I actually didn't do the heavy lifting at all, but I had no problem sharing the hell out of it because you know, I strongly believe in that. I mean, I run for city council. I literally have on my campaign sign the word racism on there. And now, you know, folks want to get somebody else elected who will talk about it. And I'm like, I was right here. I was right here. So anyway, so yeah, that was a beautiful part. So does everybody have a copy of their Hope Matters, or did anybody? Yes, awesome. I don't know how far you got in. Maybe we can go around and talk about some of your, oh, and I should say too, actually, you know, I had a splitting migraine the day that, I think it was Rosemary and I went and seen Lee. Do you remember?
Oh, right.
I was talking about this book.
That's right. And I remember you having a headache. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, if you want to, maybe we'll start, we'll go Vanessa, Sarah, Kat, Rosemary, Crystal, and just talk about the book, about how far you got and some of the parts that you loved the most.
Yeah, I have my favorite ones here. I copy and paste them here. I did find it very difficult for me because there's so much figurative language. Poetry is difficult for me in a different language. So it takes me hours to read like a few pages. I have to go back and I'm Googling words. Anyways, so yeah, so I have something about one of them. I don't know, I feel that one of them Is it about sexual abuse? Is it about maybe, is there one on sexual violence? Is there one tiny child is called?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
Yep, I see it. It's on page 48.
Yeah. Can we stop recording just for a sec, Michelle?
Yeah, I can. Just 1 second here. I'm so busy trying to get the right pages all figured out.